What if I told you the most effective leadership principles weren't born in boardrooms, but were actually forged in the crucible of combat? Today, we're going to dive into the core ideas from Extreme Ownership, a book by former U.S. Navy SEALs Jocko Willink and Laith Babin, and see how they translate battlefield lessons into some seriously powerful strategies for any team.
So, picture this. It's Aramadi, Iraq, back in 2006. This is where the authors led their SEAL task unit. And in this kind of environment, leadership theories, they were tested by fire. As they put it in the book, forgotten wartime lessons were rewritten in blood. This was not a place for theory, right? It was a place for principles that actually worked. Because if they didn't, people died. Simple as that.
So let's break down these leadership laws that came straight from the front lines. We're going to explore the core philosophy and then two key principles that show you exactly how to put it into practice, whether you're on a battlefield or, in an office.
And it all starts with one single, powerful idea, the absolute bedrock of their entire philosophy: extreme ownership. Just take a second and think about the weight of that statement. This isn't just some catchy phrase. It's the heavy, humbling burden of command. And as we're about to see, it is absolutely non-negotiable for success.
Let's be super clear about what this means. This isn't just about taking the blame when you mess up. No, it's about owning everything that impacts your mission. If your team isn't prepared, that's on you. If a supplier fails to deliver, that's on you for not having a backup plan. There are no excuses. There's only you.
The authors learned this lesson in the most brutal way you can imagine. In the total chaos of combat, tragic mistakes like friendly fire can happen. And they noticed that during training for this exact scenario, weaker leaders would immediately start pointing fingers, blaming their subordinates for the failure.
But here's the thing. Blaming others solves absolutely nothing. The real lesson, the one that separates the good leaders from the bad ones, is this. If the plan wasn't clear, if communication totally broke down, if the training just wasn't good enough, it all comes back to the leader. This total acceptance of responsibility is the only way a team can actually learn, adapt, and in the end, win.
Okay, that's a powerful lesson from a life-or-death situation. But how does this apply when the stakes aren't bullets, but, bottom lines and project deadlines?
Well, the authors introduce a character that I bet we've all met, the tortured genius. On one hand, you have this person, maybe a CTO, a department head, who accepts zero responsibility. They make excuses, they blame everyone else, and their ego just creates this toxic culture. But then you have the extreme owner. They take total responsibility, they find solutions, and they own the failures. The real danger of that tortured genius is that their ego prevents any real feedback, which means the team can never get better. The extreme owner, by taking the blame, opens the door for an honest look at what went wrong and empowers the entire team to win.
So if owning everything is the mindset, how do you actually put it into action with your team? Well, that brings us to the first law of combat, a principle called cover and move. And at its heart, it's all about teamwork.
Back in Ramadi, you had multiple U.S. and Iraqi units, all operating in the same dangerous space. Coordination was everything. A team that operated in its own little silo, that refused to share its plans or its location, wasn't just a risk to itself, it was a risk to everyone. It was, like the book says, a death sentence for the whole mission.
So what this really boils down to is that cover and move is basically teamwork in action. It means every department, every single individual understands that they have to work together, supporting each other for one single reason: to get the mission done.
Sounds pretty simple, right? But think about how often this completely breaks down in an organization. How many times have we seen departments working against each other instead of with each other?
And this right here illustrates the problem perfectly. It's that classic us versus them mentality. You've got sales blaming marketing, or the production team blaming a subsidiary company, which is a real example from the book. The mindset on the left is, that's not my job. The shift to a one-team mentality is what you see on the right. It's moving from blame to asking, how can I help? It's all about sharing info and focusing on the big picture. When that happens, those silos just crumble and performance skyrockets.
All right, that leads us to our final principle, one that is so often forgotten in the corporate world. Keep it simple. Why? Because complexity is the enemy of execution. In combat, plans have to be brutally simple. You know why? Because no plan survives contact with the enemy. Things always go wrong. Simplicity makes sure that everyone understands the mission, which allows them to adapt and make decisions on the fly without any confusion.
I mean, come on. We've all been in that meeting where a plan gets rolled out that is so convoluted, no one in the room actually understands how it's supposed to work in the real world.
The book gives this unbelievable example of a client's bonus plan. It's a total mess of variable weight curves, tiered efficiency metrics, and graduated fault systems. The managers were so proud of their complex system, but the employees on the assembly line, they had no idea what it meant or how they could actually earn a better bonus. As a motivator, it was completely useless.
So the authors challenged them to simplify it. And check out the result. They took that labyrinth of complexity on the left and just boiled it down to two crystal clear metrics. First, the number of weighted units you produce, and second, a quality score of 95% or higher. That's it. Everyone understood it, and guess what? Performance immediately shot up.
You see, the key takeaway here is that these principles aren't just for Navy SEALs in a war zone. Your battlefield might be a startup, a nonprofit, or a Fortune 500 company. The principles of leadership, they're universal.
So let's just recap the 3 big takeaways. First, take extreme ownership. Stop the blame game. You are responsible for everything. Second, cover and move. Break down those silos. It's always one team, one mission. And third, keep it simple. Complexity just creates confusion. Simplicity is what enables execution.
And that brings us to the final question, the one you have to answer for yourself. In your work, in your life, what is your mission? And are you ready to lead?